Hey, Heather.
Hi.
I was just thinking as we were going to hop on and chat today together that it's the season of gratitude as we're coming to the time of the closing of the year. What comes to people's mind often is like, how did that go? Like, how are things going? And how has this year been? And something that we often as humans go to, what didn't work or what we're still worried about or what we think we still have to complete before the end of the year. But coming back to that season of gratitude, it just opens ourselves up much more to appreciation. And that is something I think we need to be more mindful as business leaders together to not only for appreciating ourselves first, and then also appreciating others, right? That business leaders work in teams. That's how we get things done. So what are you thinking about that these days?
Well, I love that what we teach in our trainings and programs about appreciation, and we have a little formula, a little script for how to think about and do appreciation. And I love that because I do think everyone can benefit by being more intentional in how you appreciate. And in our formula, it has you really acknowledge not, you don't have to acknowledge everything, but taking one really good thing that had a positive impact on you or the company or a launch or from what that person was doing. And when we make it really specific of that and the positive impact that it had, I think it goes a long way to helping your team feel seen for their contribution. And not only does it like lift everybody's spirits in that moment, but it also goes a long way to having everyone feel great about being a part of your team. So I know we don't like to talk about culture. Culture is a big buzzword. People want the best culture. I think some people think about that in the wrong way. But appreciation, I think of as your number one culture builder, too.
Mm. Yeah, and I love what you're sharing, like really having a much more in-depth thinking in this expression, especially, well, even for ourselves too, but for others, it's like, thanks a lot. I appreciate you. Like some of us often think because we're moving so fast and busy times, and we're like, yeah, I appreciated that person. I just appreciated you, Heather. Heather, I really appreciate you. Thank you. And that's not really what we're talking about, is it?
Yeah, no, because that feels great, but what exactly are you appreciating me for? It's nice. It's not, I'm not saying don't do that. That's also a very nice habit to
Yeah,
have.
please at least do that,
Yeah.
right? Let's at least do that.
But, when I think of our formula of appreciation and getting specific, I always remember this one story from when I was first working here in the company and we had a big live event and we had this workbook for the live event. And because of last minute changes and tight timelines, we got to the event with a booklet that didn't have page numbers. It wasn't put in any order because the pages were printed out last minute. And myself and another teammate had to sit in this room in the hotel and write page numbers by hand in all of these workbooks in time for our event the next morning. And it was hard. It was annoying. Like as a team member, you could think like it didn't have to be this way. We could have had the materials in advance and not been in this position. So
Typical last minute change thinking.
yeah, and so it made a really big difference. It was myself and another teammate, and our CEO came into the hotel room where we were the night before doing this task, and she said, "Oh my goodness, thank you for sitting here and handwriting all these page numbers. And also, I recognize that the last minute changes that I made put you in this current position. I'm sorry for that impact. And I so appreciate you all sitting here and writing these numbers by hand. And, if my teammate and I felt any frustration for me, and I could see it in them, it melted away in that moment
Yes.
because what we were doing was seen and also the
Hmm.
impact that was understood. So
Yeah.
there was hope that in the future it'll go differently because when you can see the impact on team, then you do make different choices. Now we had a whole different energy to getting
Right.
these numbers done, right? And
Yeah.
So specific appreciation and acknowledgement, and maybe sometimes you're not in a situation where you literally can come in the room and see what people are doing, especially with remote teams where you can't just walk down the hall and go into their office. And so you have to be even more deliberate and intentional. I think these are words, Barbara, we're finding come up a lot, the deliberate and intentional, being more mindful.
Mindful, mindful of the impact, right? And part of the appreciation, and that's such a great example of the formula of a really good appreciation conversation goes. I love that example. And yeah, we're talking about being mindful of the impact we're having. And so even in how we want to deliver appreciation, being that direct and so forth. And even I think when I'm hearing you, like, even if you don't know fully what that impact is, it's super valuable to take that moment and imagine and be like, I imagine this might have taken you a lot longer than you thought. You would have been finished earlier this evening, right? And even if you don't kind of imagine it right, that effort to imagine, to think for a moment, how is this impacting this person or this team, is valuable. So it's like you don't have to get it right so much as make that effort to do that and let them know. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hadn't thought about this impact. Let me think. It probably looks like this. Is that right? Right? So that's an important piece too. You don't have to get it perfect, but what you're really doing is demonstrating an awareness, something that we really want all business leaders to be aware, to have that mindfulness before they take an action, before they make a change last minute, even for all kinds of actions or communications. Like, what is that intention? And then be mindful and direct and have it, go for the impact you're going for instead of the one that your emotions drive you to without thinking, right?
Yeah. And the other thing is, I know another buzzword or things people want in business is buy-in. That concept of buy-in, right?
Yeah.
Now, that story that I told and the CEO coming and apologizing and also showering us with a little appreciation, that gets you the buy-in. I would say that wasn't her intention, but that's why I want people to know appreciation is the number one culture builder, because when something that had a big impact on my time, my workload, myself personally, like happened, and then it's actually seen and appreciated, now I'm all back in. I'm all, I'm all back in on the team for doing whatever it takes, because doing whatever it takes is seen and it matters. Now, if I have impacts like that and nobody ever says a specific appreciation for doing what it took, then I'm just going to go like, maybe next time I just won't save the day. Like, I don't need to give XYZ if nobody really sees or cares. So I don't like the buzzword of buy-in, but like, it's because there's this other thinking around it. If you really want a team that's engaged, that shows up, challenge, that gives their best gifts, that goes that extra mile along with you to get the goals, acknowledgement and appreciation is the way. It is the key. And if you just do it too generally, thanks everybody, that is not the same. It doesn't move the needle, because it's not like you really understand what that person gives, or they don't have the experience of being really seen or understood. And
totally.
we need
Everybody needs that. We need that, within all contexts of our life. And that's so true. I don't like the word buy-in because it often is like, how can we convince them to do what we want? Like, we got a plan. Now we got to get the team to buy in so they'll do it. And it doesn't work well. But this, coming through and really bringing forward what's needed. Obviously, we paint the picture, we invite people in and really pay attention to the impact it might have on the work they're doing now. You can appreciate people even beforehand and I appreciate you jumping into this project with us that we weren't expecting to do this week. And I know it's having an impact on how you planned your day or your week to get the goals that you were going for. And I really appreciate that, right? So you can give this in so many ways. And what we're really doing is getting much more, as you said, I love the word engagement because it's so important. We need to be engaged as a unified team, as a team that's doing it together. You know, like that's the ideal scene of a buy-in, but this is the approach to get the actual true performance of a team unified, not only aligned to the project, but actually unified about doing it. Like, oh, this feels good and we're doing it together, right? And we're aware and we can talk about the other thing I'm thinking about when we practice this on a regular basis, it offers people the opportunity to have more safety to talk about impacts, right? Because we also want people in receiving a delegation or a change in unexpectedly in something they have to contribute their work in, you know, we want them to be able to say, let me just pause a minute to see how that impacts the things I'm doing. So this also fosters that safety to think about impacts and talk about them. But in a very positive way, it starts training your team to have the ability to be like, oh, yeah, that's something we're conscious of here, and it's important to get our best performance. And with performance, we want that sense of well-being, and that's what you were talking about. If you want a team that's performing at a high level, they need to be feeling good inside and outside in those relationships, but good and acknowledged and appreciated. People generally want to strive to do excellence, and they want to get those outcomes together. And this is a way to create that relationship that is most needed to do that in the business teams.
Yeah. So in this season of appreciation, reflection, I think that the message we want to give is no matter your position in the organization, you work with other people. Even if you're in an earlier stage entrepreneurial business and it's only you and one other person, it can be so powerful to really reflect and take the time to acknowledge and appreciate. And that is like going to add so much good feeling to what we've gone through in the year. And it also tees up excitement for what else is possible in the year ahead. And I guess the point I want to make is you may think, well, I'm not the CEO or I'm not this person, so I'm not going to, you know, that's this person's role. No, everybody in a team, we can acknowledge and appreciate because we interact with one another. And we maybe know a little more about what it takes because we interact with this team member all day, every day, and other people are more removed. So we can give a really specific appreciation, like to the team member that sat next to me writing the numbers. You know, I'm the one in that seat, like, wow, can I acknowledge them and appreciate them for being here with me and always going that extra mile, and that I know that without them, I couldn't be as successful as I am.
Absolutely. Yeah. So great thinking as we move forward into our season of gratitude. I love this conversation and the message that it brings. So let's go out there and be grateful.
Yes. And we know for every business, it takes a team. So
it does.
Tap into this acknowledgement and appreciation, practice it, and let us know how it goes. Barbara and I would love to know how it goes for you and celebrate your applying this tool. And notice what's different, notice what's changed, notice how you
notice your impact.
Yes. All right.
In all those positive ways.
So thank you for your time and attention, and go out there and spread some good cheer and appreciation, and we'll see you again soon.